collectibles, we have Neil Bookheads from Kiwi Art and Toby O'Connor from Collectibles. And this will end the series of the 3 photographs taken by John William Kennedy with Andy Warhol. Now, it's going to be a very special night tonight because we are going to be giving away two POAP, not one, but two. Okay. So in order to claim your POAP, you're going to have to follow a set of instructions, which we will give out in a minute. Now, you're going to have to ask to get the first one. You will have to ask question. You're going to have to, sorry, let me just get my facts straight. Okay. You're going to have to ask a fun question while we are live. You will have to leave your email address and a URL of the channel that you're viewing from with your question. And we will post a link to the platform Gleam, whereby you will fill in the form with those information and you will get your first POAP sent to you via a link. Okay. There's no secret word for tonight. You just have to do that and you get your first one. Now, in order to win the second one, which is a real beauty, I've seen it and I thought I really like it. Unfortunately, I can't have one. You're going to have to tell us what you've learned tonight about the Birmingham Race Riot and also about the photograph that's being taken. I think the photograph that's being taken is more important and more relevant. So you're going to have to tell us what you've learned about how this photograph came about. Okay. Now on that, I'm just going to start the AMA and let's talk to Neil to start with. How are you today, Neil?
Yes. Hello, Kevin. Hello, everyone. So my name's Neil and I'm talking from my art flat in London. And this is the third in the series. And today I will be talking about the image here, which I have to my right, which is Andy Warhol holding his Birmingham Race Riots on a sandwich board in the factory, a photograph taken in 1964 by William John Kennedy. And side by side, you can see the very famous Andy Warhol in Marilyn, which we talked about last time. And on our first discussion, we talked about the Andy Warhol holding the flowers. So it's with great pleasure I can talk to you about this very famous image here. So Andy Warhol was not really a political animal. So although the Birmingham Race Riots was quite a famous period of American history, Andy Warhol wasn't really about the politics for him. It was about using a controversial image and then using it to create a piece of art. So whereby the Marilyn, you've got the beautiful picture of Marilyn and the flowers were fun pictures. The Birmingham Race Riots was just using a photograph of its time. So the best way that I can explain to everyone how this came to being is really by referring to this is a catalogue called William John Kennedy, which is called the Warhol, which was basically the museum edition. All these three images that Coin Collectibles had made NFTs have come from a series of 5 images where the Andy Warhol Museum picked the best 5 images of the complete set of William John Kennedy's images of 100. And they picked the 5 images because to them, they were of the most importance. And they got a curator from the museum to write an essay about each image, explaining why each image is the most important. And it was very interesting that one of the creators picked this Birmingham Race Riots image, because it was, and I believe the reason why they picked it, it was so out of character from what Andy Warhol usually has done. So just reading a little excerpts from the curator, it was written by Nicholas Chambers, who is the Milton Fine Curator of Art of the Andy Warhol Museum. And he basically says that the Warhol's race riots occupy a unique position in Andy Warhol's portfolio. And while they form part of the seminal Death and Disaster series that was a major preoccupation for Warhol throughout 1963, they are the only works in the series that depict an event of an explicitly political nature. And the source images which derived, where this was derived, was from a photographer called Charles Moore. And Charles Moore published these photographs in Life magazine article in May of 1963. And why this is very interesting is this is what Andy Warhol did. He picked out a source images, sort of plagiarism really. He picked someone else's photograph, okay? He messed about with it and created a piece of art for himself. And this is where all the silk screens were created. So he created this photograph from someone else's photograph in Life magazine in 1963, which is quite incredible, really, that he could get away with that. And it goes on to say that these photographs at first weren't really that successful, but he reinvented these photographs and brought them back up to speed in 1964, just where at the time that William John Kennedy was visiting the factory. And this is why the importance of the photographer, because it was the photographer's idea to help Andy Warhol reinvent this art. And this new art has become known as the Little Race Riots. So,
right.
So this original silk screen is known as the Little Race Riots, because William John Kennedy said to Andy Warhol, "Where did this come from?" He started to explain where it came from. He said, "Oh, let's reinvent it. Let's have a bit of fun." So William John Kennedy came up with the idea. He saw a big roll of black tape in the factory, and he said, "Look, why don't you wear these silk screens? Wear it like a sandwich board. Wear it as if you're going out on the street of New York and selling these images. This is what you want to do," because he wanted to make money. So Andy Warhol thought, "That's brilliant. I'll go along with that." And this is where the skill of the photographer comes in, because you can see here in the photograph that he positioned Andy Warhol in the wind. This is like the loft window of the fire escape. And he has him standing in the loft window, wrapped with the sandwich boards of this Little Race Riots. Again, not knowing that these were going to become famous silk screens that were eventually sold for multi-million dollars. Yes. And William John Kennedy was standing at the top of the fire escape, looking down into this window. And what's incredible, you can see at the sides all the tin foil that was laced in the factory. And he got the image of Andy Warhol looking straight into his eyes. So if you can imagine the photographer at the top of the fire escape looking down into Andy Warhol, looking down onto this Race Riot image, and he created this image here. And little did everyone know that this was going to become a famous image. And if I can show you, this is a catalogue from Christie's, and in the catalogue from Christie's, there is, I don't know if everyone can see it. Here is the image of the Birmingham Race Riots, where they show next to Andy Warhol's famous little electric chair, which came from the same series. So can you see this is the electric chair, and then next to it, they have referenced the little Birmingham Race Riots. Excuse me 1 second.
Sure. Studio, can we enlarge Neil and also put the photo in the background, please? Can we please enlarge Neil? Neil, not me. Can we enlarge Neil and see if we can put the photo in the background? There we go. And see if we can flash the photo in the background, please, studio. Thank you. All right. Sorry, Neil. Please keep going. Are you frozen now, are you?
I'm back.
Okay.
Have you got me?
Got you, but your image is frozen.
Right. Sorry.
Here we go. Okay. So we've put a photo there for you to talk about.
Right. So hang on. Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So here you can clearly see. You can clearly see what I was talking about. This is the photograph of Andy Warhol. You can see him right on the bottom of the fire escape, looking through the window. And can you see the foil? The foil on the left-hand side, which is synonymous with the factory. And there you've got the Race Riots with the black tape on his shoulders and looking up at the photographer. This it's an iconic image, and this little this called Little Race Riots basically he reinvented, together with the help of the photographer, reinvented this Birmingham Race Riots, which wasn't successful when he first did it in 1963. So this is where the skill of the photographer enhanced the reputation of Andy Warhol. And this is where why the Andy Warhol Museum believes this is such an iconic image.
You know, Neil, this is so interesting, right? When you talk about Andy Warhol, I know the rest of the world think of Andy Warhol as this creator, but now that you've told the story, he really has luck on his side to have all these people, including, the photographer, William John Kennedy, and all just giving him a push, isn't it, to bring him to where he was. Because really, in life, he hasn't met all these wonderful people. Then I'm not so sure if he could have achieved what he has achieved. Do you know
exactly? And this is why the sandwich board is so important, because here he is, literally at the start of his career, selling himself. He's going out into the world as an artist and selling his wares. Andy Warhol is very famous for liking money. Remember the dollar signs, which is everywhere. He was into money, and William John Kennedy was steering him there. That's quite correct. And what's more interesting, I wanted to explain another antidote, that the Andy Warhol Foundation for Visual Arts also wrote about this Little Race Riot and was explaining more about the plagiarism of Andy Warhol taking someone else's art. and what they said is that Andy Warhol made very few alterations to the source material for this screen print. The photograph from Life magazine, which was taken by Charles Moore, Warhol simply enlarged it and reversed the original image that was published in May 1963. And this was a photo essay about police dogs attacking civil rights demonstrators.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. And although several of Warhol's series of the early 1960s touched on current events, the subject of the Birmingham Race Riot and 13 related silkscreen paintings made subsequently is uncommonly political for him. Yet, despite the photograph's disturbing depiction of an African-American man besieged by police dogs, Warhol's deadpan presentation of the appropriated photograph makes the tone of his work very ambiguous and difficult to gauge. And what's interesting is the photographer Charles Moore would later sue Andy Warhol for the unauthorized use of his work. I don't think he got anywhere with it.
Why not? I mean, what came out of that lawsuit? I mean, you was there no copyright infringement for that, or how did the ruling came in?
Yes, I think it was very ambiguous at the time. Very similarly, when the story about Andy Warhol when he was holding the Marilyn, he was quite open. Andy Warhol didn't paint the Marilyn image. That was again plagiarized from someone else's piece of work. Wow. And he just adapted it. Are you with me?
Yes.
That's what he did. He literally just adapted other people's works. And I think at the time, before the the legalities and the suing that you have now, I think he got away with it.
Yeah. Times have changed. I mean, it's quite interesting. I mean, this is really a bombshell, isn't it, Neil? To find out all these. I mean, I don't know how many people out there knew about, know about, how Warhol's work came about. But you've just shed some light on what, to most people are just like this little dark corner. Everyone just look at him. I know he is like a household name in the art industry, isn't he, Andy Warhol? But yeah, I mean, the absolute bombshell there for us to find out that a lot of his work aren't really originals, that he actually ripped it off somewhere and then sort of tweaked it and made millions out of it, didn't it?
And basically, again, William John Kennedy just saw this silk screen sitting on the wall by the factory. And he said, "What's this?" "Oh, this is something that in 1963 I started playing around with it." And he said, and William John Kennedy said, "Well, let's resurrect it. Let's have a bit of fun. This could be good." And if I don't know the exact figure, but these little race riots, these silk screens now go for unlimited amounts of money.
Yeah, I know. The last one, what is, Toby, how much was the Christie auction that sold the Marilyn?
I think it was around 195 million.
197 million. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the numbers are
right here. My eyes are starting to water up.
Very high.
But whereby that image, what we saw in this NFT is Andy Warhol holding up the silk screen, holding up the acetate of which the silk screen actually was made. Here in this Birmingham Race Riot picture, we're actually seeing the finished silk screen. So this is the finished product, the product that was photographed here in 1964, which William John Kennedy literally picked up off the floor and made into a sandwich board, is the actual physical piece of art. And if we, and So this is the piece of art, which is, I think it last sold for $64 million.
My God.
This is, and here they were just strapping it with tape.
I know. I mean, you sort of wonder, right? At that time, did they even have any idea that any of those art is ever going to worth that much in today's market?
They had no idea. They had no idea. But the photographer had the insight to say, you know what? This is a great work of art, Andy.
Yeah,
Let's have a bit of fun. Sell it, Andy. Let's put it on the sandwich board. This is the way to sell it. He showed him the way.
Hey, Neil, there's a few questions that is coming from the audience. I'm just going to ask you, right? One of them has asked, one of our audience has asked, what is the most important thing in that picture, in that photo?
I think the most important thing is the fact that the photographer is looking straight into Andy Warhol's eyes after creating this sandwich board, and he's saying, look at this, look at Andy Warhol. He is going to be a famous photographer. Look at this image. This image is going to be a famous image. And he had the foresight to he knew that. He knew that. He instinctively knew it. You know, and he's caught it so beautifully in a moment in time. And I think this is why the Andy Warhol Museum picked that image as one of the 5 most important images, because it was a moment in time where the photographer knew that this guy was going to be big.
It's just like the Marilyn one, isn't it? When he just like held up that acetate, and then the photo was just taken, and everything. It was just a moment in time. It is like being at the right time, at the right place, you know, with the right thing happening, isn't it?
That's correct.
And we just got another question, Neil, from another of our audience. And I think you can see it on the screen. It says, did you have any showroom to showcase Kiwi arts, and can we visit there to buy? Now, I can tell you now, you can come to collectibles.art and buy any of these 3 paintings, okay? The Andy Warhol with the sandwich board, the Marilyn acetate, and then the Warhol with the flowers. You can come to collectibles.art and look at the 3 pieces there and buy the photographs that you'll come with a DOT, which is a digital ownership token to authenticate the the piece of art you buy is the real thing. I'll let Neil answer the second part, which is whether you got a showcase and where they can go and buy the art from.
There is only one place in the world where there is a permanent exhibition, and that is in my art flat in London, which is in the Strand, and anyone is more than welcome to visit, to contact Coin Lectables, and they will. I do private visits in my London art flat. The Kiwi Arts itself, which is a publishing company which has all the stock of the art and keeps it preserved in a vault, is in Miami. And there is a small showroom in Miami as well. But with regards to the biggest exhibition of the physical photographs, it is in London.
And for those who can't get to London, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're probably going to see more of Neil's work, more of these photographs in collectibles.art. Are we right to say that, Neil?
That is correct. I mean, if people like my stories and like the art, I'm very happy to work with Coin Collectibles and show more and more of these really exclusive images.
Well, this might be the last.
I think that's an important point. These are very exclusive images. This particular piece is I think one out of 60 originally done, number 21, special edition. It's signed by William John Kennedy, who's now deceased. So one of the special themes through this whole series around William John Kennedy is the relationship that Neil and Kiwi Arts have enjoyed with him over the years. And it is an unusual situation to be able to acquire one of these images that is signed by the photographer, now deceased. And there are very few of these in circulation. I think, to pick up on that question that you had, Kevin, about what's special, as I think about this series that we've done with Neil, what's really struck me is the way that as you look at each bit, you research each of the pieces, how William John Kennedy was able to get to know Andy Warhol, get him in these situations where he just felt comfortable to create these very special and iconic images. And it's one of the things that we have on the Metamol site and on the DOT is a description from the photographer himself of how he got Andy into the fire escape to be able to take that picture, for example, how he came up with the idea of the sandwich board. And it's just fascinating. And I think what we've really enjoyed over these sessions is being able to obviously highlight the specific pieces, give that detail, but also allow a lot of people through the POABs and other ways of being able to participate in this. It's quite educational. I mean, it's such a historical time, the 60s. And you look at this particular picture, we could spend a lot of time on the politics of the time. And I love that word that Neil used earlier. It's ambiguous. And maybe it should stay that way. But the 1960s, 63, this was a very, very difficult, interesting time in the US. And obviously that impacted the artists of that time hugely.
Absolutely. Hey, we got one more last question before we move on to try and wrap up this session. We got an audience ask. We understand that Andy Warhol adapted most of his work from others. Do we have an exact number? Do we have an exact number of how many pieces of work that he sort of plagiarized, adapt from other photographer or artists? Neil, do we have any idea about that?
You know, Kevin, I think around, this is such an iconic artist, right? and artists very much look at their times, particularly the 60s, through their own lens, and they portray it that way. And you see that across lots of different artists and lots of different types of works, but it's particularly interesting, around this particular picture. And I love that description that Neil used earlier. And I was looking at it myself, and I was researching for this call, how that original photograph was used in the Life magazine and how it was picked up and the particular circumstances around that photograph. And I think that's part of the genius of what we're looking at here.
Yeah. I don't think. I mean, we're not talking hundreds. We're only talking tens, because don't forget, he moved on and he did photographs and he played with images. Muhammad Ali, Chairman Chow. He kept on reinventing himself. So I think he started moving away from these commercial silkscreens as he got more famous. I think he tried, and maybe people were suing him for images. He tried to move away from those genres.
At least we know that's how he started. Everyone started.
That's correct.
And then he started to develop his own style, and he moved on from there. But that's interesting to see that there are it wasn't like this is before, and just to let the audience know, this is before he was famous and started creating his work.
Correct.
Okay, so this is like very, very early days. That's why these photographs are so valuable, because the moment they become famous, they'll be charging you for taking a photo of them, but all these photographs were taken before they were even anybody. And
that's right. And he had the time. That's right. William John Kennedy had Andy Warhol's time. So when he came up with these ideas, he was only too pleased to do it. You know, he had the time to do it. You know,
well,
once
when
he was famous, you
once
couldn't get in the studio. That's right.
Exactly. All right. So Neil, are we gonna expect to see more of you, hopefully, and another series with more POAPs, maybe a little bit more of something else. But we are definitely going to see more of Neil with his book as well. You got a book that you want to talk about at some stage, don't you?
That's correct. We've got a book coming out in September, and it's basically called the William John Kennedy, The Lost Archive: Photographs of Andy Warhol and Robert Indiana, and it's being published by ACC Art Books. They're one of the biggest coffee table art books publishers in the world, and they're very excited to partner with us to show all these images in a coffee table book. And in this coffee table book, we'll be showing more and more of the images, and hopefully I'll be able to work with Coin Collectibles, where before the book is published, the subscribers and members will be able to see more of these images before the rest of the world.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. That would be excellent. We'll leave all that for our next sessions, and I'm sure we have a few more to come. But thank you very much for your time today. Thank you, Toby, for coming on tonight or for our AMA. And I look forward to seeing you all again. Now, for those who are interested to buy Neil's work, these three are available on collectibles.art website. Please log in there. We have other stuff as well, and we hope to see you again. Like and follow us on all our social media channels. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And look out for more exciting stuff coming. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Neil. Once again, thank you, Toby. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, everyone, for coming on tonight. Thank you, guys.